$5 off online? Oh, I've got to call the girls and tell them about the Psychic Gallery on the first Monday of the month. Great time! 7:30 p.m. Perfect. Have to remember HalleyElise.com for the Psychic Gallery.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Halley Elise Show, featuring your host, empowerment psychic Halley Elise. She is an author, psychic, and media personality, and has been listed as one of the top 100 psychics in America. Empowerment psychic Halley Elise shares the spiritual, metaphysical, holistic, and magical powers of the universe. Follow Halley on her website at HalleyElise.com, and all her shows can be seen via live stream video. Now, here's your host, empowerment psychic Halley Elise.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you've had a wonderful week so far. Actually, it's a new week, isn't it? But I guess it depends on if you go by old school, which was the week started on Sunday versus Monday. So we'll leave that to whichever works for you. I'm just being silly. Anywho, I wanted to mention that the Psychic Gallery, it's a reminder, I'm sure you heard the commercial, but in case you didn't, it is the first Monday of the month. A friend of mine, while I was driving over, phoned and said, make sure you mention the date. I said, okay, what's the date? Because I usually look at the calendar, a couple of days before and go, oh, that's what it is. But she mentioned that it was April 6th. So Psychic Gallery is on Monday, April 6th. And if you're hearing this for the first time and wondering, what is the Psychic Gallery? It really is an experiential opportunity for you to explore psychic phenomena, enjoy some peaceful moments, enjoy some humor, and to get a psychic reading. So that's the abbreviated version. If you really want to have at-length information, just go take a look at the website. It's Halley, Halley, Elise, ELISE.com. And you'll find all sorts of information there. Actually, there's an abundance of information, anything from meditation to psychic phenomena to photos with me and some of my cohorts at different events and activities. You'll probably recognize some of them because they're kind of bigwigs in the community and very nice people as well. And there is a little quickie on the front page. I guess I should use the proper term, home screen. So on the home screen, when you land, or maybe it's a landing page, I'm not quite up to date on the whole web verbiage, but when you go to that main page, you'll be able to see the little quickie. And it's something that you could use really at any time in your life that makes a difference to let go of stress or let go of a moment where you've been triggered. And I'm bringing up trigger because I had spoken with somebody earlier today and found that it was a reminder to me that no matter how much work an individual does on themselves, there are times in their life that they are going to be triggered. And even when they think they've eliminated whatever it was that was holding them back, there are moments that it seems to seep up through the crack and get them again. And this individual said, well, what do I do with that? I'm doing chants. I'm doing affirmations. I am visualizing. I am doing all of these things that I am supposed to do. But then in the next sentence, she says something about her discomfort and what that discomfort is. And it dawned on me again as a reminder that how we speak to ourselves, about ourselves, for ourselves is really important. And we seem to take that for granted. You go to do something, and I've mentioned this before actually on other shows, but you go to do something and you do it incorrectly. And instead of saying, oh, messed up, I'll do it again, and I'll do it right the next time, you go, oh my gosh, that's so stupid. Why did I do that? You berate yourself. Part of that has to do with how you're brought up, but part of it also has to do with acknowledging you're good. Because if you're constantly patting yourself on the back for the things that you do well, you won't find it as easy to negate what you're doing. So something to keep in mind. This gal who I spoke with, brilliant, talented in a multitude of ways. And yet she seems to always be on the precipice of that next step. It's how do I go? How do I do? How? And when she thinks she's there, again, that little trigger. And it's interesting what a trigger might be for us. And the reason I say for us, because each of us are individuals, we have that thumbprint that's different. Our energy signature as well is different. You'll see somebody who their mom will say something, and all of a sudden, that's it. That's all it took to put them back to being 8 years old or 15 years old, and all the old stuff, all that old paradigm comes in to bother them and throw them. And yet, this is somebody who perhaps has worked on their own issues, has worked on evolving themselves both psychologically, if you will, intellectually, spiritually, and yet seems to slide right back. And I believe it's because we have cords. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. Probably some of you are. But we have energy cords to people in our life. And sometimes there are attachments, meaning that even though somebody isn't necessarily directing our life, and they may not even be in our life anymore, that attachment, that, if you will, that energetic connection is still there. And it may be as simple as severing that cord. And the term for that is cord cutting. And again, come to think of it, whether it's been here at WNN or it was at WRPBI TV, there was a show or two that we talked about that. But if you want more information on that, feel free to give me a holler. I'm more than happy to explain it. There's a lot of things that we can do individually, not to safeguard, but to allow ourselves to recognize what it is that triggers or bothers us or that brings up the old stuff, and then release it. Think this way. Everything has an energy, and we've definitely spoken about that before. If that energy is neutral, it doesn't have an effect on you. If it's positive, of course it has an effect, and if it's negative, it has an effect. So let's say you're going along and that particular energy is neutral. It's been kind of sitting under the surface. Everything's copacetic. You're doing what you need to do, not a problem. And then all of a sudden, something happens in your world, and it's no longer neutral. It's active, and it's active in a negative way. What do you do with that? Do you respond and react negatively because that negative emotion showed up or that energy showed up? Or do you choose to acknowledge that it's still a part of you and you release it? And think about this. We all have a core essence to our being, and it has really very little to do with hereditary factors or even habitat. It has more to do with that literal essence of who we are. If we choose to tap into that and we remind ourselves that we are souls living in a human existence, then we have the ability to shift things very quickly. There are a lot of different processes that you can use. The Hicks method, I'm sure you've heard of Abraham teachings, very effective. There are many different exercises that they suggest that you can use. There's the Sedona method. We could go down the line, actually, so many different methods that I've been exposed to over the years and had the pleasure of experiencing or taking classes on or getting certified in, etc. Tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique. All of these things that I'm mentioning, you can actually find on YouTube. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you just use YouTube as a source to learn something that you're really connected with. I would use it as an introduction so that you can see, oh, this one feels okay, but doesn't really do it for me. This one is really great, but, I really need to know more about even something as simple, and I shouldn't say simple because it's something to be learned, Reiki. Reiki is a process of manipulating energy for healing, whether it's psychological, whether it's physical. It has to do, whether it's spiritual, I should include that as well, yes, but it is a modality. And we have so many different modalities, but there are different teachers who teach differently. And if you go and take a look at what's online, there really is a myriad of different teachers, a plethora of information. But not all of it's accurate. Not all of it is correct. Not all of it is going to empower you. And you know me by now. It's my thing, the empowerment psychic. People tease me about that. And they go, well, what exactly does that mean? I'm all about you getting what you need to take better care of you. Now, if that means having a reading so that you know that Johnny's going to ask you to marry him, or that's about your travel plans or what have you, that's great, as long as you make the proper steps to help you. If it's about just giving you some information that you can use on a daily basis, something that you can incorporate into your routine, then that's terrific, because it really is about you. I actually want to open up the phone lines if anybody wants to call in if they have a question. Psychic or in respect to energy and manipulating energy. And when I say manipulating, it's not a bad thing. It's about reorganizing sometimes. Think like this, and I love analogies. Okay, you have a kitchen and your refrigerator's over here and you open the door this way. So in other words, there's a wall here and the door is here. Your sink is over here, your stove is over here. So every time you need to go to your fridge, you open it and it's against the wall. Not exactly the most conducive for making things happen or for ease, right? You could feasibly take that door and turn it the other way so that it opens on this side. Now it's near the sink and it's near the stove. We're reorganizing. We're manipulating the space, yes? Okay. Your world, psychologically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, physically, can all be manipulated in a constructive way. It's a choice. Okay, so I started to say about opening up the phone lines. The number is 888-565-1470. Once again, that's 888-565-1470. So if you want to call in for psychic reading or you'd like to call in to ask something about something you're challenged with energetically right now, please feel free. And I am going to say that it's kind of amusing. I was contemplating as to what was the right, if you will, topic or right direction to go in this evening. And there were several things that were on my mind, including, what I started to share. And again, a friend phoned earlier and she wanted to know, well, what are you doing type of thing? And I told her in earnest, I wouldn't know till I sat down. I allow myself to be guided. And I want to bring this point up, not because I'm, quote unquote, special because I do this, but because you can do this. Meaning, if you listen to that inner guidance and you say, well, I have this choice and I have that choice. I'm not sure which direction to go. And you just allow yourself to respond and react and go with the flow, you'll make the right choice. And it sounds oversimplified, but it's amazing how effective it works. And this is not so much about business, even though it's very apropos in business. This is about life choices. Great example here. There's a gal who came in. She had a session. She was back and forth with her love life with somebody. She's really, really, truly heart connected with this person. And yet there were things that were not so good. Keep that in mind for a moment. We will take a quick break and we'll be right back and I'll give you the rest of the details. I think it's something you can relate to. Thank you.
Bob, did you see Halley Elise in the paper?
Who?
The empowerment psychic, Halley Elise. They did a 2-page write-up. The columnist was enthralled. Halley went right to an issue that she was dealing with. I'm looking at HalleyElise.com right now.
What are you thinking? Should we schedule an appointment?
Matter of fact, yes. You have issues with Sue and me, my business. Take a look at her background. It's impressive, and she has decades of experience.
I want to put it on my iPad. What's her info?
Empowerment Psychic Halley Elise. HalleyElise.com. 561-755-2166.
Spell it.
HalleyElise.com.
So it's HalleyElise.com and 561-755-2166, right?
561-755-2166. That's it.
You're listening to Empowerment Psychic Halley Elise, and she invites you to visit her website for more information about all that she does at HalleyElise.com. Now, back to your host, Empowerment Psychic Halley Elise.
Hello there, if you're just joining us. Before we took break, I had mentioned a little bit about a client who had come in and was having some issues. Prior to that, we talked a little bit about triggers, and this you'll see will all kind of congeal. But this client came in, she was having some problems. She, again, was heart connected to this gentleman, and yet there were all sorts of things going on. And what came up in the session was that he's always going to be who he is. Now, that sounds like, that's a general statement. But the truth is, if you're dealing with somebody who's got bipolar or has some sort of mental aberration or has another family that they're committed to, you can't expect them to just snap their fingers because they want to marry you and that stuff goes away. It doesn't work that way. You have to either choose to accept that person for who they are, the way they are, and choose to work together to make the best relationship possible or not. And that is oversimplifying it. But here's the thing. So this gal came in. I shared some specifics with her in respect to what was going on with the gentleman, what was going on with her. They did get married. A month later, she came in and said, I don't know what to do here. Now, it's not that she was triggered. It was that she didn't listen. And this is where we went from triggers, right? And energy being held in the system to listening to that inner guidance. Her inner guidance said, don't do this. But that little voice in her head said, but I really want to do this. I really love this man. I really want to be with him. And the little voice said, don't do this. Which did she listen to? She listened to the desire versus that inner guidance. Really important, folks. You can desire something with the breadth and depth of your being and truly in your mind for the moment believe that it's going to become what you want it to become. If you're dealing with another person, you have to deal with the other person. If this desire is so strong that it's perpetuating you to move forward in a way that somewhere within isn't quite right, then you have two choices. Either you don't do it, or you say to the other person, before we do this, let's figure it out. And you have to be really clear with yourself. And this takes me back to what I started with the onset of the evening, which was this gal who has old stuff that keeps popping up. Listen to yourself. Stop fighting. I find it so fascinating that human beings will know what to do and totally ignore it. We are the only creature that does that. Do you know that? We are the only creature that does that. I'm not talking about a trained animal, because an animal will sometimes do what they're supposed to, and sometimes they revert back to that animalistic behavior, and they don't, no matter how well their training is. But I'm talking about a human being who has the wherewithal to make the best possible choice for them, and they know better, and they ignore it anyways. Animals don't do that. If a cat needs to go do something, the cat's going to go do it. A dog, a bear, a monkey, a bird, what have you. They follow that instinct. They follow that inner direction, that inner voice. We have the same capacity. And what's amazing is we can literally change our environment if we choose to. We can take a plane and go somewhere else. If you have a bear who's uncomfortable and he needs to hibernate, he's going to try to find a place. But if he can't find a place, he's going to hibernate no matter what. We can say, oh, we don't like this. We don't like the cold weather. We don't like the hot weather, whatever. And we make a choice and we go. We have the ability to really have the best life possible. We have to stop saying, oh, it's because this didn't happen or that didn't happen or so-and-so wasn't nice to me. Things don't always happen the way we want. And people are not always nice. And I'm going to give a very personal example here because it's very amusing at this point. And hopefully it will be heard because it's really very funny. My ex and I split up. May will be 6 years. And I've been waiting on a gettin, which is a Jewish divorce. We've had the regular divorce for some time, but want to the Jewish divorce. Now, you would think it's a simple enough request. All he's got to do is sign a piece of paper. Well, I asked the first time, he had a reason not to. I asked the second time, he had a reason not to. I asked the third time, he had a reason not to. Now, a couple of months back, he got engaged. And I said, okay, great, you're engaged. Let me have my Jewish divorce. And if you're wondering, well, what's the big deal? If I choose to get remarried in a synagogue, then I kind of need that. So it's one of those things of, it's not that it's a necessity in this moment, but it's something that I would like to have so that if I make a choice, it makes my life easy because I already have it. Okay, long story, a little longer here. I mentioned it another time. It was ignored. And it's really kind of funny because it's not like I am banging down a door or I'm sending nasty mail or none of this. I mean, real simple, hi, could you take care of this? Okay. Contacted a rabbi. Rabbi interceded for me, called. Oh, yeah, I'll do it. This was about a month ago. Then, again, the rabbi contacted him a couple of weeks ago. Oh, yeah, I'll take it. Okay. Then, just this past, I guess, week, oh, give me 2 more weeks. Well, in between the time that he spoke to the rabbi and this 2-week period, this is his honeymoon. One would think you'd want to be completely done with the old before starting the new. At least that's my thinking. But like I said, at this point, I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. If you know there is something, and again, this is about listening to ourselves. If you know there is something that is going to simplify your life, that's going to make your life easy so that somebody is not contacting you or calling you, or so that you can move on with your world with a clean slate, or so that you can let go of things that you really don't even want to look at anymore, why not do them? What's stopping you? And again, this was just an arbitrary example because obviously it's been on my mind. But really and truly, each and every one of you is a powerful being, and each and every one of you has the gift of intuition. You can say you're not psychic, and that's okay, but really and truly, you have a gift. There is, if you will, an internal device that is with you when you come into this world. Make use of it. Listen. And if you say, oh, I just don't know, get quiet. I have a student of mine on the West Coast who I spoke with the other day, and she was going through something, and she says, tell me what the answer is. And I said, no, you have the answer. Listen. And she goes, oh, I don't know how to do that. I said, yes, you do. And she says, no, can't do that whole meditation thing. You want me to get quiet? I said, no. I'm not asking you to get quiet in the sense of saying, I don't see that thing in the room and I'm turning everything off, because some people have difficulty with that. There are lots of different forms of meditating, lots of different ways of getting quiet. So I gave her one of those forms to work with. And it was funny because when she called back, she's like, I got an answer. You too can get an answer. If you're debating on something, whether it's a matter of moving forward in your world because of business, or it's relationship, or it's money, or it's health, whatever it is, go within. Listen to what that inner voice has to say. And then you have to choose, do you want to pay attention to it or not? It's much more simple than you think. We tend to get in our own way. We make snowballs. We think about something and then we overthink it, and then we think about it in different ways, and then we discuss it with someone and they put their 2 cents in, and then we discuss it with somebody else and they put their 2 cents in, and before you know, you have 20 different reasons why you should or shouldn't do what it is that you were trying to figure out. Be in your own skin. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't seek out advice. Obviously, that wouldn't be good for me if you never sought out advice. But what it does mean is when something really, truly feels right, when you hear that inner voice, pay attention to it. And if doing the right thing means doing something that's uncomfortable, but you know that it's the right thing, then do that thing. And forgive me, I'm not trying to lecture here. What I'm trying to get across to you is that, again, you are very powerful. And if your life is not going in the direction that you want it to go in, make a change. Remember, I talked about manipulating energy in the kitchen and manipulating our world. You can do that very easily. One of the simplest ways that you can make a change that's effective is sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and start writing. And if you sit down and you go, oh, well, this is really stupid. I have nothing to write about. I don't even know why I'm sitting here. This is nonsense. I just can't do anything with my life. There's something to write about. I just can't do anything with my life. And then ask yourself, is that true? Write down yes or no. If you get a yes, then ask yourself, why is it true? And keep peeling back the information. Because again, that inner wisdom, it's going to pop up. It's going to let you know it's there. I'm going to give you a little tool to work with, which is really kind of cool. And I believe I mentioned this too. It's not so much that I'm redundant as it is I tend to repeat the things that I really believe in respect to practices and exercises. And this is something that I know that I've mentioned before probably several times over the years on the air, but something that's real effective. Take a piece of paper. Again, I like writing because it takes it out of your head so that you have something concrete to look at and something to work with. And draw a circle and then draw 12 lines, like a clock, 12 lines. Well, we have digital now, but in the old days, we had clocks with hands, right, and numbers. Okay. In the center, write the thing that's disturbing you, whatever it is. Perhaps it is, I'd like to make $50,000 and I only make $20,000. So you write down, I can't make $50,000. Put a line through it, and underneath write down what you really want. I'd like to make $50,000. So in other words, you're creating a little bit of a balance. You're negating the negative and creating something else here. And even if it neutralizes the old and doesn't bring in the new, you have a stepping point. Then at the top, where let's say the number 12 would be on a clock, write a statement that is true, that you can believe about what you said about the 50,000. I would like to have the 50,000. Well, you could say, oh, well, I can do that this month. That wouldn't be true unless for some reason you have a relative who plans on giving you the money, or, the lotto is a sure thing or what have you. But write down something true. Then go to the next one. The idea is that on each line, you write a statement that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, that is something that makes your heart feel good when you think of it, when you say it. Put it on the line. By the time you get back to the 12, you will have noticed that you're no longer feeling that you can't do the thing that you put in the center that you put the line through, but that you can do it. This works with all sorts of things, from weight loss to money to relationship to buying a new car. But you have to be honest with yourself. And that's why this is not something that you would do in public, but you sit down and you do it. Another technique that is amazing is from Dr. John Demartini, one of my mentors, who is absolutely brilliant. He came up with the quantum process. And I'm going to give you an abbreviated version. But if, for instance, you're looking at somebody and you're thinking, wow, that person's a real idiot, and you're not going to like this, but then ask yourself, who in your life, either now or at any time in your life, has thought you to be what you're thinking of that other person? And just write down their initials. So let's say Tom Thumb is the person that when you were 10 years old, he thought you were an idiot. So write down, all right, T, okay, for Tom, T. Do that for a while. You'll find that, again, you neutralize all that old stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions about anything, obviously contact me on Facebook or at the office or online at HalleyElise.com. Have a beautiful evening. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Be enchanted and delighted. Connect each week here on WNN for the Halley Elise Show. Also on Facebook and at HalleyElise.com. Thanks for tuning in. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers.